For those of you that are home and don't have a worksheet, you will have to create your own worksheet. If you're not able to print this, you have to make your own. So grab a sheet of paper that is the size of a 8.5 by 11. It is a normal sheet of copy paper. I want you to trace the ruler along the top, just like that. That'll be the area where you'll put your name, your class period. Then it'll also help you guide you for the next one that we're going to be doing. So again, also trace it very lightly, just like that. And I know it's barely visible on the camera, but do your best to just trace it once. Then you trace it again at the bottom, so you have two sections like this. And then grab your ruler, about 1/4 of an inch, make a mark, and you do it on both sides. Do it on the bottom and do it on the top. About 1/4 of an inch, make a mark, and that's where you'll start making these squares that you see here. Alright, so you're going to do that. Do them about 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. So they're not going to be squares. They're going to be small rectangles. And then you connect this line to that line. Connect this line to that line. And so now you have this small area, small section. And mine was, what happened here? Oh, I know what happened. There. So 1.5. It's a little bit off, so I'm going to fix it. Okay, again. So it's 1.5. Just like that. And there is your first rectangle that you need. You're going to keep going until you fill that section. And the spacing between each of them is about 1/4 of an inch. So you grab your ruler, measure 1/4 of an inch, and you can make that line to sort of tell you where it is already. Remember, every rectangle it's about 1.5 inches. So you go there, 1.5 inches there. There's your next rectangle. Same thing here. Do 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. You're going to keep going until you fill it up. So go to 1 inch and 1/2. 1 inch and 1/2, right there. These will be your rectangles to paint with different grays. So 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, inch and a half, inch and a half. Then the last one might not fit the whole 1.5 inches. So there, do 1/4 of an inch, another 1/4 of an inch, and what we're going to do here is do 1.25 inches. 1.25 inches. Make it fit and give it some space on the edge also. Just like that. Alright, so there you go. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top. Now what you're going to do at the bottom, same thing. You're going to trace the ruler like that, very lightly. Trace it again, very lightly. And then you'll do 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the paper here, from the edge of the paper, 1/4 of an inch there. Same thing on the right side, you do 1/4 of an inch. This ruler is very transparent almost not visible. So 1/4 inch is right here. 1/4 inch also here. Alright, so what you do is connect it. You connect it. And then you trace it again so you can see your long rectangle strip where you'll be painting a gradient from dark to light. Alright, so this is what you're going to do. You're going to label it here. Dark. Make an arrow pointing that direction to light. So this is where you'll paint the white. This is where you paint black. And it'll gradually go from dark to light, from black to white. Alright, this will be a smooth transition in between values. These will be separate values by themselves. Alright, one last thing to do is you need to do shapes because we're going to turn these into forms. So somewhere in there, grab something that's circular and trace it. Trace your circle. And then you draw a cone somewhere in there. I'll do my cone over here on this side. And this one you have to freehand. You can do a triangle. Then at the base, you make the curve for the triangle. Makes it a cone. So grab your ruler again. Fix my triangle. Grab the ruler to fix the triangle. And then for the bottom part, there's no ruler. If you want to grab something that's round, that's fine. I freehanded it. That's also fine. I'll leave it freehand because I did that myself. Alright. So now I have a cone, a circle, and then I'll draw a square here. I'll freehand that one too. Normally these are done in perspective, but we're going to freehand it. So start with this corner. Now the worksheet has this in an awkward perspective. I think it's a incorrect perspective, so we'll fix it. So what you do is just make sure this line here is smaller than this line here. Same on this line, on this side. This line here is smaller than this side. So do that. And this is just a free sketch, right? It's not a freehand drawing of a cube. So go ahead and fix it. We're going to use the ruler to trace it now. You can press. And actually, if you want to use a pen for this, that is fine. I would suggest you do that. That way your colors don't get mixed up or get muddied up with your paint. So that means if you trace it with a pen, then it won't get mixed up with the paint. Alright, so that's what we'll do very quickly here, since I still got time. I'm going to grab my pen. I hope I land this in the right place. Okay, get the pen and trace this one, the circle. So trace the circle with the pen, make it nice and dark. So now you'll have your own worksheet you made by yourself. There's a pen, circle. We're going to turn that circle into a sphere with the correct shading. We're going to use paint to start shading or blending. We're going to shade and blend different values to get the illusion of form. So that's what we're doing. And here we're going to use the same thing. We're going to use different shades of gray to make this box look three-dimensional according to the light source. Alright, so that's there. Now for the shadows, we're going to do some shadows for these objects. I do not want you to use the pen for the shadows because it's going to be harder when you paint it. Alright, so we do this, kind of loop, curve, make sure this corner here, sort of loop it this way. And what I mean by that is that it curves right on the edge to give the illusion that it's going back. Alright, now I'm going to flip the paper this way because I'm more comfortable doing that. Pulling to make a straight line like this. Same thing here. Pulling to make the straight line there. Alright, and now this will be your gradient. You can write that at the bottom. Gradient. That means it will go from dark to light. And these are all separate. You gotta trace those also. So let's use a pen. Trace it. Do that for the top parts. Alright, so we're almost done with the worksheet. You just trace this line, trace this one again, trace this line here, trace this line over here, trace this one. That one's a little bit crooked when I first did it. Trace this one, trace that one, there. Okay, it's all set. So I finished doing the worksheet in about 10 minutes, 11 minutes. You do the same for this part of the assignment. Draw it, and then start painting it. Okay, I have another video to show you how to start painting this. And thank you. Forgot to mention, you have to write your name on top of it. So do a line also, a space for where your name's going to go, somewhere in here. And your class period somewhere in there with the date. Put your name, class period, and your date on that side, and you're all set. The value scale is a visual representation of how dark and light you can get using two colors, black and white. Depending on how much black you add and white will determine your gray tone. If you add a lot of black, your gray will be dark. If you add a lot of white to your mixture, your gray will be very light. We will learn how to make these different grays and different variations in order for you to learn how to make shapes and turn them into three-dimensional forms. In the assignment, you will mixing your own grays in a separate rectangle each to see how dark and light you can get. In the bottom part of the worksheet, you will do a gradient, which means dark to light in a smooth transition to see how they compare to each other. When you paint and you're ready to do the worksheet, first get the white out, clean your utensil to get your paint out. It could be a popsicle stick or a painting palette. In the first mixture, grab the same amount of black and white to make a gray. So now you have three variations here, and the gray should be close to the middle. Now to make another gray, same thing. Watch how I do the gray. And in this instance, you will add less black to make a lighter gray. On the top section, make another gray that is lighter than the previously made. On the bottom, make a darker gray than the one you have previously made. And you want to have these colors pre-mixed so it's easier for you to paint. On your worksheet that you've already made by yourself or the one you printed at home, you will paint the white on the farthest right, the section where I have the indicator where it says light. The lightest color will go on the right, and so forth. When you paint it, try to keep your paint inside of the rectangle. Do one pass over it, And when it dries, do another pass over it. On the left side, you start putting in the darkest of the black. Now, the reason you're doing white and then black is so you can see the contrast between the two colors. Move your brush appropriately so you can paint your rectangle. For this exercise, I recommend using your flat brush, the one that has a straight edge on the top. Use one of your dark tones to paint the middle section, one of the middle grays that you have, and paint it thoroughly. Do not add too much water to the paint. And try to keep your edges clean. Grab your next gray, apply it close to the one you have already on the right side, and make sure it's lighter than the one on the left. This will show the transition of how dark and light you can get. But remember that in between these two grays, you can have a multitude number of grays also. Now, do not try and paint as fast as you are seeing me paint it here. Sometimes I speed up the video, sometimes I slow it down. When you paint it, take your time, paint it slowly, and make sure you're doing it accurately. Also, clean your brush every time you change from one value to another. On this part, I changed the color to a lighter gray or a tone, because these are called tones, not really colors. Although some colors do contain, some grays do contain some bit of color in them. Especially because black has a little bit of blue in it, so some of the grays will look like they have color in it. And for that reason also, in temperature, these are considered cool grays because of the black. It's a cool black. Alright, and do that for your last tone over here, the last value, the darkest of the grays. Make sure there is a difference between that one and black. You don't want it to be the same as black. Apply the paint thoroughly all over your rectangle, and you'll be done with the top part of this worksheet. Grab your liner brush or your round brush, the one that looks like it's pointy, and you go back and retrace your lines to make this worksheet on the edges a little bit nicer. Filling in areas that you're missing. Make sure you don't leave any of the paper showing through wherever you have painted. And now you will paint the bottom part. The bottom part will be a gradient from black to white. Black will be the darkest, and for this I recommend using two brushes. One of the brushes will work to apply the paint. Apply the paint on the dark area. Hold your other brush on your other hand. Apply one color next to it, and you see here, grab the clean brush to blend in between the two colors. This has to be done when the paint is still fresh. If you wait until the paint is already dried up, you won't be able to mix the two colors. So pay attention to how two colors are blended together, and you'll do it right now that this is fresh. I'll add another gray right next to it on the right. See, I'm adding fresh paint right there. Then I add this fresh paint on the right. You have to do this quickly. Then you grab your clean brush. Make sure you wipe it down. Clean brush in between to blend these two colors together. Again, this will be repeated several times so you can get the idea on how to blend two colors together. Always dry your brush. Always clean your brush, the one you're blending with. That one should not have any paint on it. Again, wet paint here, fresh paint. Then on the right, I'm going to add the lighter fresh paint. So this is fresh paint again. Get very close to the color you already applied. And once you put it right next to each other, just like that, you will grab your clean brush. You see it I have it on the left hand. And grab that brush and try to blend those two colors. See there. When you blend, try and have your brush on your hand and do this fast. When you put the brush on top of the paint, make sure you do it fast also. And keep doing that until the end of the strip, going from dark to light. When you get to the middle part, this should be a middle gray, and now the grays that you start putting on the right side should start being on the lighter part. Okay, keep doing this until you finish this up, and that's it for this video. Thank you. Keep watching till the end so you can see how the whole thing is completed.